Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the five-step follow-up, okay? And I'm going to go over statistics and factual information that will allow for you to really wrap your mind around why this is a critical piece that we're going to be diving into. And just to recap the last few weeks that we've been talking, we've really gotten into detail about making sure you're classifying your leads accordingly. You're working hard to generate opportunities for yourself, but if you're not utilizing the classification of leads, you're losing out on opportunities that, of course, you can come back to and generate the next step of the sales process, right? All the way from a regular follow-up to a scheduled follow-up. We talked about the hot and warm leads. We talked about scheduling those appointments and having those scheduled follow-ups so you can come back in and get your DMs met percentage to be consistent or above what company averages are. We also discussed, making sure that we're asking for referrals. Always be asking, right? How to ask. And a lot of the times we talked about how 84% of business to business decision makers start the buying process from a referral, right? These are things that you can't overlook. So what we have challenged this agency to do is work together to create what we call a formalized referral program. And this is, of course, a formalized follow-up process, right? This is a system. This is something you can look back on and say, hey, this is what I did to create X, Y, and Z, right? And so one of the things that I struggled with when I was in your shoes or starting out is I didn't know how to go back into business without saying, hey, John, I was coming in to just follow up and see if you had any questions, right? The big F word, right? And so in today's lesson, we're going to be diving into what can we do to continue to drive your skill set forward in that area. And here's why. Number one, because 75% of the businesses we presented to haven't been closed yet, right? If you're talking about a 25% closing percentage, what about the other 75% we never close, right? That's a big number, but there's still a ton of opportunity in that group of business, right? A lot of the times I coach people to think about it like this. It's not no right now. It's just a not yet. It's not no, it's a not yet. Your job is to ask the questions to figure out where to place yourself within the year, within the week or the month to create the next step of the process. Another piece I want to give you is the why behind this is 70% of the DMs that we don't see 70% of the DMs, right? Our average DMs met percentage is 30%. And only 30% of those are converted, right? 33% at an optimal level. So you're talking about 67% of DMs that we spoke to have yet to be converted. So what's the plan to go back in and how would you approach something like that, right? And most people, they go in and say exactly what I told you I struggled with was, hey, John, I wanted to come back and follow up with you and see if you had any questions about anything we talked about, right? And a lot of the times, right, because they got caught up in their own business and things they had to do to keep food on the table, right? That was one of the things that kind of threw us off when we approached the business owner like that. The other one is 80% of our closed cases, looking at dashboard data, 80% of our closed cases are follow-ups, from follow-ups, right? We've got a couple of people that are able to go in and close a case on a walk-in, right? But you have to understand, this is where you get a consistent amount of results, how you're following up. So let's talk a little bit more about statistics here. According to the National Executive Association, 48% of sales of salespeople never follow up with a prospect. 25% never make a second or third contact. 12% make 3 and stop. And only 10% of sales professionals make a third contact and beyond. 10%, right? 10%. We want to change that here today. I want to drive this organization. I want to drive this agency to be that 10% of people that are going beyond that third and fourth and fifth contact because they have a strategy on how to do it. Now let's talk about the other side of it. Only 2% of sales are made on the first contact. 3% of sales are made on the second. 5% are made on the third. 10% are made on the fourth. And 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact. 80% are made on the 5th to 12th contact. And it just seems to be that when we're looking at our Epic data and I hover over our closed cases, we have 80% of those closes be follow-ups. So the numbers don't lie here, team. Let's get rocking and rolling on the 5-step follow-up. But here's what I want you to expect, okay? I want you to write this down. Becoming is greater than being. Okay? Becoming is greater than being, right? There's people that come into this business and they expect to be amazing. They expect to be a Michael Jordan and Elon Musk, a Jeff Bezos in this business, right? A Gabriel Speaks, a Matt Keller, right? A Brian Cannington. This is where, you have to understand that we become those individuals. We become great at this. And that's even greater than coming in and being a superstar. Okay? Because you put in the work and you work through the adversity and the trials that it takes to be successful. So remember that becoming is greater than being. So here's what to expect when we're developing this skill set. Number one is follow-ups are going to require critical thinking, right? Everyone who's paid well thinks critically at all times. Okay, so when you're following up, you're going to need to think critically about where you're currently at with the lead and what needs to happen in the next steps to put yourself in a position to win. And you can't do that alone, right? Using Epic to your advantage is what's going to help you think things through based on the details you're putting in the journal, based on the questions that you're asking, right? I see some of the notes and people get a little laxed on what they're documenting on those notes. Those notes are designed to give you a lot of really cool stuff to go back on the second and third and fourth visit to keep building value off of. So never forget that. The other thing to expect is that following up is an art to the business. Following up is an art to the business. You got to be innovative sometimes, right? And I want you to write this down too, because you're going to realize a little bit more into your career that our job is not to change the mind of the business owner. Okay? Write this down. Our job is not to change the mind of the business owner, but instead provide them with new information to make a new decision. Okay? If you ever try to think back to a time where you said, you know what, I was wrong, I should have closed with you, right? Or hey, man, I was not. I should have closed with Bruce earlier, man. I made a mistake and do it. You're never gonna win, right? Business owners won't say, hey, man, I was wrong. I should have done this earlier. But if you bring them new information to rethink and make a new decision, that's the key to the follow-up, right? So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit more on how you can do that. Number 3 is expect to fail sometimes. You're going to trip up. You're going to slip up a little bit, and that's okay, right? Fail often, fail forward. That's how you're going to continue to learn right now. I want to give kudos to Brian here, guys. Look, the whole thing, there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge and wisdom. What I'm giving you here today is knowledge. Wisdom, however, is gained through the application of all of this. That's wisdom, right? Trial and error, right? If you're looking for clarity, you have to go through trial and error, right? You can't think your way through success, right? You got to go in and apply it. After you've thought about it, you apply it. And that's what gives you the clarity and the wisdom to be able to move and maneuver through this process. So just expect to fail sometimes. You're going to have some challenges, but it's all right. We are going to persevere and make it happen. And the last and final one is you're going to make more income, right? I'm sure you guys are excited about this part here, right? More income means better lifestyle. More lifestyle means more freedom. More freedom means we can give to our communities and those that we care about. All right? So now, mindset. An objection is not rejection. It's simply a request for more information, right? I'm not interested. Okay. He's telling or she's telling us, give me information as to why I should be interested. Hey, I've tried this before. Tell me why you're different, right? There wouldn't be any interest in my employees. Give me information, right? It's a request for more information. We haven't given them the good information yet. So just remember, it's not rejection. Don't take it personal. It's just a request for more information, and we have to provide that for them. So let's talk about the 5 steps of the follow-up. Number 1 is rapport. Super basic, but super essential. Rapport. People have to trust you and like you. Number 2, you have to reestablish the value, right? When I'm approaching a follow-up, I'm not just by going in and saying, hey, John, I wanted to follow up and see if you had any questions. They more than likely have probably forgotten the value that you had presented to them when you had first met them. Number 3, isolate and crush or handle the previous objection, right? For you as a sales professional, understanding what the objection is giving you the advantage. So addressing the concern or the objection up front will allow for you to then move into steps 4 and 5, which step number 4 is tying it down. Tying it down. May we step into your office? Is now a good time? There's a couple scenarios that I'm going to demonstrate for you on how to utilize these steps. But you can't get to the last step if you don't tie it down. That is essential. The last one is addressing the real objection. Addressing the real objection. Many of you have gotten into businesses that told you they're not interested. Okay, I promise you, they are just masking what the real issue is, right? They're looking for someone to show them that they're serious about what we do, right? So by going back in to the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, up to the 12th contact, you're making a better impression on who you are as a professional and how you take this seriously. So by going in, handling the previous objection and tying it down, you're going to be able to find out what the real challenges are. What is their real concern? And we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we go through this. So let's talk about step number 1. There's a couple of best practices that I'd like to share with everybody. Number 1, make sure you're writing good notes. This is something that, man, look, it's a small detail, but at our level, right? At our level, we have the better the notes you take, the better chances you have of creating that next step. Number 2, make sure you're utilizing the basics, right? FOR, family, occupation, and recreation, right? Those are things that really pull at the heartstrings to these business owners. They may be business owners, but they have hearts too. So don't ever lose sight of that. And this one is one of the most critical. Start the conversation assuming they remember you. Don't ever go to this business owner and say, hey, John, I don't know if you remember me or not. Oh my goodness. Think about that. You're going in and saying, man, look, you're pretty much telling them, look, I don't think I did a good enough job making myself memorable, but here's the deal. I want to come talk to you again. So you always need to assume, hey, John, it's good to see you. Even if it's been 6, 8, 12 months, act like if it was just yesterday that you walked in there, right? Hey, Gabe, it's good to see you again, my man. What's doing good on your side? Or, hey, man, what have you been up to? What was your 4th of July like? Right? So this is going to be critical. I underline this one because that is an area of opportunity that I see in a lot of people going back into a follow-up. So number 1, make sure that you're utilizing the journal well, use the FOR, and start the conversation assuming they remember you. Number 2, reestablish the value, okay? Transitions at this step are key, okay? Transitions at this step are key. Using phrases like reconnect or refresh, right? Don't get the word follow-up out of your vocabulary. That's a really bad word to them. It's monotonous. It's overused, right? I kind of like to compare this to the people when you say the word catch, right? When you walk into a business and you're asking for the DM, and when's a better time to catch them? The same thing works. The same slang is follow-up. So I want to encourage you to utilize words that have more substance to them, right? Reconnect. I wanted to refresh. Right? These are good. Reevaluate, revisit. These are going to help you transition well and give phrases to your vocabulary that create more dense value to it. All right? Which I got ahead of myself, but this is another, right? So remember, do not use that phrase. It's highly utilized. If you want to take your game to the next level, use the word reconnect, refresh, review, revisit, something along those lines. Okay? Now, when you're reestablishing the value, you've transitioned, you want to utilize the scripts already, right? And I'm going to demonstrate to you how this works, right? So, Brian, it's good to see you again, my man. What's new and good on your end? Awesome. Hey, listen, I know the last time we had the opportunity to reconnect, I let you know that I specialized in helping employers like you provide valuable benefits to their employees while creating tax savings for the company at absolutely no cost to the business. And then from there, right? So I'm just going back into the point that I made when I first made this business owner, right? Or, right, hey, listen, John, I wanted to reconnect with you and let you know that last time we had the opportunity to sit down, we went over our programs. You had a lot of interest in our life insurance program because it gave your employees life insurance they could afford to keep after retirement, right? That is what I'm saying when I'm talking to the decision maker. I'm not talking about just following up or seeing if they had any questions. I'm reiterating the value that was established when I first met them. Hey, John, I wanted to come back and reconnect with you because I know we had the opportunity to connect and go over the programs, and you had a lot of interest in our life insurance programs along with our cancer plan. I know you had some employees in your business that had some, instances where this happened. However, your only concern at the time, right? So now I'm starting to move into step number 3, right? The key here is load up your second, third, fourth, and fifth visit with the value again to move into the sales process. By missing these pieces, people are just shutting us out, because if we're just saying, hey, I want to come back and follow up and see if you have any questions, more than likely they've already forgotten what was talked about, right? So that's why this part is really critical. Another component to this is your tone and delivery, right? Tone and delivery are a major component to this. So you want to have role play sessions that are part of your day-to-day to get this skill set dialed in and get it to where you want it, right? Repetition is the mother of learning. You ever want to get something dialed in, you have to go through the repetition, right? For those of you that go to the gym, for those of you that cook a lot, for those of you that like these certain hobbies that you have that you're really good at, you weren't good at it until you had good practice in and had that wisdom and that clarity in that process. So anyway, remember, your tone and delivery are a major component. Addressing it with confidence, addressing it with excitement and enthusiasm, right? Not over the top. I'm not saying come in and, go holler and, in the business, but being confident and having that tone and delivery to it gives it a lot more value to what you're bringing. And then lastly, of course, this is it, guys. We're using the scripts. Everything we've talked about was pretty much what I've used for my script, right? By mastering the script, I'm able to then reestablish the value and wordsmith my way to creating that moment to get to the next step, right? So using the scripts is something that you have to use to your advantage to get the words to say to move the buying process or the sales process along the way, all right? Step number 3, one of my personal favorites. This is where we handle the objection, right? We talked about the key to this is to get some solid notes, right? Include the specific objection that you got, okay? Include the objection in your journal so that when you're coming back to revisit, you know exactly how to attack it, right? Think critically, right? But we can't think critically if you don't have the details to connect the dots with. So let's make sure we're capitalizing on this moment. Now, when you're handling objections, you want to have strong transitions, right? So, hey, John, I wanted to come back and reconnect with you because I know that we had sat down and we were able to show you the benefits of our life insurance plan and how it would give your employees permanent life insurance after retirement that they could afford. But your main concern was, right? Or you had mentioned that you didn't want to pull your employees out of production for the time it takes to meet with me, right? Those are going to be the things that we've just got to dial in on to make the follow-up sound strong. Transitions are key in this whole process. Number 1, knowing how to go in and identify what steps did you miss, right? So that's why I broke it up into steps. Then you put in some really good transitions in between each step. You're going to get a lot more out of these opportunities because you sound confident, okay? So just remember, work on those transitions. You can use some of these that I've suggested for you, but you can also then, of course, add some of your own network. Now, of course, use the scripted rebuttals. Use the scripted rebuttals, guys. Look, I think you guys know this. I'm not saying that you can't add anything to it, or I'm not saying you can't switch lanes. I'm just asking for you not to get off the highway. Okay? Use the rebuttals. They work, right? You want to add a couple words here and there and make it sound a little bit more like you, then listen, I'm all for that. But sometimes people get off the highway and they take a detour and they get lost somewhere and now they don't know how to get back to the process. And so it's missed opportunities there. So just remember, notate solid notes and get the objection, get some strong transitions that work for you, or you can use the suggested ones here. And then lastly, use the scripted rebuttals. They work so well. And I want you to conserve energy. I'm not asking you to go out and reinvent something and because that takes a lot of energy, right? To get a result. But that's got to be the key. All right. So now let's talk about step number 4. We got to tie down. Tie downs are how you ask for the next step of the sales process. If you're not tying down, that could be where you're getting stepped up or where you're tripping up on. So it's imperative that you have this part in your process to get the DM to move into that next step, right? The scripted tie downs work just fine. You can enhance them a little bit based on what you utilize here. But here's one thing to remember when tying down. You do not GET unless you ASK. Okay? That's why tying down is so imperative. I'm asking for the next step of the sales process. So do not miss this step right here, guys. Super important. Now let's talk about addressing the real objection, right? Hey, Bruce, it's not that I'm not interested, man. It's just I've had many of you guys come in here and we've tried this before and it was just a mess. Oh, okay. Hey, John, I'm actually glad you brought that up. I've had other clients who have had similar experiences before doing business with me personally. And as you know, service is a big part of any benefit program and is definitely something that I take a lot of pride in. I've got a couple of ways that I can show you that I'm different from others. It only takes a few minutes. Is now a good time? Right? We're taking this objection handling to the next level. But I can't do that if I don't know what the real objection is. That's where step number 5 is critical. Knowing your objections, knowing your rebuttals, it just allows you to be able to then pivot and get sharper on how you're responding to these, right? So addressing the concern that they had, right? So step number 3, which we talked about, addressing the first objection, is what's going to help us bring out the real, because what else can they say? Oh, well, unless they say, hey, well, really, man, I just don't like you. Well, I don't know what to say to that. That's a hard one, but that is what I want to know. Hey, man, you don't like me. I get it now. It's I'll be out of your hair. I just want to know, what is it really? Is it, man, like is it you're behind on a job? Is it you've got things going on right now? You're in the middle of selling the business. You're this or that, the other. I just want to find out what the real thing is so that I can continue to clean up my leads in Epic so that I can continue to move on in the community that I'm working or in the city that I'm working, right? Finding the real objection is critical when moving and working a city, okay? Now, let's talk about the 3 scenarios to use the 5-step follow-up, okay? Now, before I go into this, I want you to remember, we're talking about thousands of dollars worth of opportunity here when you're going and addressing the follow-up game. So you have to have thousands of dollars worth of preparation. Think about that, right? You've got athletes, you've got people, you've got movie stars, you've got agency owners, agency directors, right? CEOs that take a lot of time to prepare for a moment in their career, right? Or moments in their career. This doesn't change for you, right? It's the same thing. If you have business owners that you're getting ready to go back and visit, you have to think critically. What was the scenario and how can I apply the 5-step follow-up to generate thousands of dollars worth of revenue in the quarter that I'm in, right? First, second, third, fourth, right? So let's talk about the first scenario. Decision maker, right, was met, heard our 30-second commercial, but was not converted, right? That's one we get, right? What is that? 67% of the time? 67% of the time, you get business owners that don't convert. So this one's going to be critical on how to approach this one, which I'm going to demonstrate how to do it here in just a moment. Number 2, decision maker was presented to, but we did not close with them, right? I know some of us, if not all of us, we should have a presentation, not close layer. This is where you go through those layers and those leads and start throwing some on the route, but you got to think through them to be able to figure out which ones do I want to capitalize on, okay? The third scenario is you close the account, but the enrollment needs to be rescheduled or solidified, okay? Show of hands, right? Or thumbs up. How many of you guys have experienced this before, right? It's me right here. So having this 5-step follow-up, you can utilize this to go back into these opportunities that you need to move the needle with, okay? So let's start talking a little bit about this. So in this particular scenario, the decision maker has heard our 30-second commercial, but we didn't get to convert them. The concern they had was they weren't interested, right? You're going to get some of that. So that's one I hear people say, well, I get this quite a bit. Well, listen, handle it like you normally would and use the same rebuttal, right? So, hey, listen, Brian, good morning, man. What's your morning been like so far? How'd your 4th of July go? Awesome. Listen, Brian, I know the last time we had the opportunity to connect, of course, I let you know that I specialized in helping employers like yourself provide valuable benefits to your employees while creating a tax savings for your company at absolutely no cost to your business. But one of the concerns you had was you just weren't interested. And after thinking about it and giving it some thought, look, I understand you feeling that way because you just met me. But I really think that if you had a few minutes to take a look at the ways that I've been able to help other employers at no cost to them, you would really see the benefit, man. It only takes a few minutes to show you, man. It's now a good time, right? I'm just utilizing that, but I'm doing all that in one swoop. I'm not doing any pauses. It's come on, let me handle. I know. So then, well, Bruce, look, thanks for coming back in, and I truly respect that about you. It's not that I'm not. It's look, we've already tried this before, Brian. I'm actually glad you brought that up because I've had clients who have had similar experiences before doing business with me. As you know, service is a big part of any benefit program. It's something that I take a lot of pride in. I've got a couple of ways actually that I can show you how I'm different. May we step into your office? I'm moving the needle here. I handled the original one. He gave me the real object. Look, it's just, I've had this, we've tried this with Aflac. No one was interested, or there's a number of ways to do that, but that was just one way to how this all works, right? The second scenario is the decision maker was presented to, but we didn't get a chance to close them. Their main concern was taking their employees out of production for the time it took to meet with me, right? I know that going into this. So clearly I'm going to handle this deal the way it needs to, right? So, hey, Brian, good morning. What's new and good with you, my man? What'd you have for breakfast, right? Again, I'm assuming that he remembers me. I'm not going to go in and just, hey, Brian, I hope you remember me. My name is Bruce with Globe Life. That's not good, right? So you want to just go ahead and aim at it with directness, right? So, Brian, it's good to see you again, my man. What's your morning been like so far? Awesome. Well, listen, man, I wanted to come back and reconnect with you because we had the opportunity to sit down and review our programs. You had some great interest in our life insurance plan that would give your employees, permanent life insurance that they could afford after retirement. But your biggest concern, of course, was pulling your people out of the field for the time it took to meet with me. And look, when considering something like this, I had mentioned that you want to always think about two things. Number one, right? If one of your employees were to come to you and ask for help, you'd want to help them, right? And we made clear of that. Number two is, of course, meeting with your employees for just a few minutes wouldn't affect your business in a negative way. All I'm asking is for those employees that want to protect their families is that you allow them to do so through payroll deduction. That way you and the employees can save on those valuable tax dollars. The good news is I've got a couple of dates already ready for you. I just need a couple of signatures or authorizations to get the pre-approval process started. Maybe step into your office. Boom, baby. Come on. That is the flow, guys. That is the transition. That is the value, right? Compare that to just walking in and saying, hey, John, I wanted to come back and follow up to see if you had any questions on our presentation. Nah, man, I don't think we're going to be interested. I don't know why I can't close, right? It's these little things. I struggled with this, right? So now, Bruce, it's not that I don't want to take it's look, I just want to think about it, right? Hey, man, I appreciate you coming in. Let me just think about this for a bit, right? What is the feel, felt, found, right? Hey, listen, Brian, I truly understand how you feel. I've got other clients who have felt the same way, but what they have found once they really considered this was that you never really know what's around the corner, that while we're waiting to make a decision on this, one of your employees can be struck with an unexpected illness or even a death that occurs in their family, man, that could leave them financially devastated. Do you see what I mean? Again, all I'm asking is for those employees that want to protect their families is that we do it through payroll deduction here at work. That way they can benefit from those tax savings, you as well. And again, I just need 2 authorizations to make this happen, man. I've got a couple of dates ready for you, man. Maybe we step into your office. Let's get the rocking. Let's move the needle here, right? So that's how you handle that particular one. Now let's move on to this one right here. This one is when the account was closed, okay? But the enrollment needs to be rescheduled or solidified. QAC call wasn't done, right? The verification call wasn't done. Something along those lines didn't happen. We had an enrollment date set. We have a franchise number. I mean, you name it. The 5-step follow-up is so critical because you're approaching it with value, you're handling the objection directly, and you're finding out what the main problem was. What happened? How can I help you, right? So, hey, listen, Brian, it's good to see you again, my man. What was your 4th of July like? That's awesome. My daughter and my son, they loved it. My daughter was a little afraid at first, but then she started yelling. She loved it. Well, anyway, listen, Brian, I wanted to come back and reconnect with you because I know that we had sat down, we went over the presentation, you had loved what we had, and we had an enrollment date set up. However, we need to complete a verification call. Okay. It only takes a few minutes to get that taken care of, man. May we step into your office? Come on. I built rapport. I reestablished the value. I talked about, the object or the what was the problem, right? The concern, the problem. We have a verification call to get handled. May we step into your office? Well, Bruce, I just don't think. And then you're going to find out a couple of good things here, right? Some other objections came up. They got to thinking about it. It was not something they want to do. Well, that's why this is imperative. If you're trying to listen, those are deals you've got to prioritize, right? If you've worked hard to close in a deal, right? And the employer hasn't completed the verification call, sometimes it's better to come in person, man, and handle that in person and get them to get it done right then and there. Because again, you're already at the brink of getting them solidified and it's close to getting you compensated. We just need to move the needle. So don't expect a phone call to get the job done all the time. It's best to have your presence there, utilizing the 5-step follow-up, because we're talking about thousands of dollars worth of opportunity. Do not downplay that. Now that I've demonstrated 3 instances in where you can use this and how it's structured, right? Remember, rapport, reestablish value, handle the objection, right? Isolate it, let them know you were listening. Number 3, tie it down. And number 4, tie it down. And number 5, handle the real objection. Sorry, guys, I lost track of my counting there for a second. I don't know what happened. Now we're going to go into some basic best practices I want to remind you of. Number 1, log your leads accurately in Epic. Log your leads accurately in Epic. Epic is a tool, right? You can't rely on your mind to do everything. You've got your Social Security remembered, your birthdays, everybody's birthday, everybody's events that are happening. You've got them all up here. So if you're just utilizing paper and all this, you lose that document. But Epic allows you to be able to put them on a route and remember where to go, right? So just remember, this is critical. Number 2, collect referral letters. This is another one, right? So I know we're driving referrals. If you've got accounts that can't get you referrals at that time, get a referral letter. Referral letters can be dropped off on these 3rd and 4th visits. Hey, John, I wanted to come back and revisit with you, man. I've got a couple of referral letters from businesses that I've partnered with that had very similar concerns of yours, man. Here's just a couple of them. They've got their phone number on them. Can you give them a call here by the end of the week? And I'll reconnect with you here in the next couple of days as well. Right? That is new information. We talked about this. My job is to provide the owner with new information to make a new decision. Referral letters allow you. That's another piece of information. Oh, you didn't tell me you worked with Brian, man. I go to church with him. Are you? I've had instances where that happened. All right. Now, the other piece, you can't downplay role play, right? This is a 6-figure practice. Okay. Knowing how to follow up will earn you 6 figures in this business. It's not hey, I'm going to make $40,000 a year doing this. I'm talking $150,000 and beyond, because you know how to go back into businesses. You know how to log leads in Epic. You know how to approach the leads now. You know that referrals are valuable. So make sure that you're integrating your role play sessions to get this to be smooth in your practice. Okay. Because we talked about application. I want you to think of one word that is the difference maker between good and great. And that's apply. Apply what you're learning. Apply the things that you are grabbing from this, and make mistakes. It's okay, right? We need that clarity within the group, within the team. So that's important. Make sure you're role playing, build solid routes. Make sure you're getting into these businesses that you promised that you would come back to. For some businesses, guys, that's all they're looking for. That's all they're looking for. They want somebody that they want a face that they can see multiple times, not just once, right? Remember that. Build solid routes. All right, guys. Last thing I really want to end this with. I love this. This is something that explains how important, right? I know we talk about wanting something, but I want you to utilize the word craving, right? A power desire for something, a powerful desire for something, right? Because you don't have to love the hard work. You just have to crave the end result so intensely that the work becomes irrelevant. Anyways, guys, I want to thank you so much for your time this morning. I hope this has brought you a lot of value. I'm looking forward to meeting more of you in person. I'll be getting a lot more visits out there, guys. But at the end of the day, look, this was something that truly made a difference, not only in my career, but it was something that already models what we're doing. It just breaks it up into steps, and we've got to be applying it and thinking back, what did I do and what did I not do? And how can I apply it to the next stop or the next follow-up to create another result? Anyways, guys, that's all I have. Brian, is there anything you'd like to add before we close out?
Yeah, man. I just want to say thank you so much for taking time to be with us this morning. I know you're out in corporate this week and an hour earlier, so I understand you having problems keeping up with your count. 1, 2, 3, 3, 6. But a lot of fire that you brought. I was watching everybody taking notes, so great notes. Just a couple of things. First, you mentioned that the 80% of the business are closing that 5th to 12th follow-up. And I wanted to let everybody know that is not as big of a number as you think. If you think about the number of times when we walk into a business, we have to walk back into it to catch that decision maker. That's your first follow-up, your second walk-in, right? Then you're booking an appointment. There's number 3. You come back for a presentation. There's number 4. If you don't close it on the 4th time, the follow-up is the 5th time. So you get to it real quick, but the statistics that you gave were based on the national sales averages, and right. That doesn't include our process and our scripts. And so from talking to other ADs and agents, I would say probably ours is more along that 4th and 5th line. Just get back. Just keep going back. No doesn't mean no. It just means not now. And then the other thing, and you brought this up at the end, but guys, Epic is your friend. Take good notes. Take good notes. Bruce gave you several examples of things that you want to put in there. Like, what was the real objection? What were some things that stood out? Like if he's had people who have passed away while working there or had cancer while working there, you want to put those in your notes. Those are positive things that you can bring back when you come back in, but your memory bank isn't big enough to keep up with every business that you're going to follow up with, because going forward, about half of our walk-ins every week are going to come from follow-ups as we're adding new follow-ups to our routes in the future. So Epic is your friend. Please, please, please get good at taking notes and reviewing those before you go in your follow-up. Besides that, I'll get this video out to all the ADs. I know that there's more deep dive that we can do on this. There's some things that we might have missed in the process, and we'll have this available to y'all probably within the next week or so. Bruce, thank you so much.
Let's go, baby. Dig deep, guys. Let's go. See you guys.